What's going on, everybody? My name is Andrew Oliva and I love to review movies. If you haven't already, please leave a like down below and hit subscribe. It helps me out so much. This video, I'm going to do something different, and this might be a new series that I start doing more of. It's going to be called Let's Talk, and these are just going to be videos where I just want to talk about a certain topic or things that I've been wanting to say for a while, or just little things that I'm interested in. For example, today I'm going to be talking about Terrifier 2 and the effectiveness of practical effects. Now, this is something that's been on my mind for a while, especially in horror movies, are practical effects. Practical effects, in my opinion, makes movies instantly better. Especially, like I said, horror movies. I'm gonna narrow this video basically down to horror movies. I'm not gonna talk about any like superhero movies, action movies. I might do that in another video, but I'm gonna talk about specifically horror movies using practical effects. Now, just recently, Terrifier 2, directed by Damien Leone, came out, and it is a bonkers movie. If you haven't seen it, I definitely recommend it. It's very gory, so if you have a squeamish stomach, it's not going to be for you. But the biggest thing that stands out in Terrifier 2 is the practical effects, which are just amazing. Most of them were created by Damien Leone himself, and I just watched the behind the scenes of Terrifier 2 and how much work went into the practical effects and how more immersive practical effects make horror movies, and that's the biggest thing with Terrifier 2. I'm not sure this movie would be the same if it opted for CGI instead of practical effects, because every single kill in this movie is memorable because of the practical effects. It just adds a whole layer of immersion to the film, and it really just grosses you out even more than CGI does, and it just makes everything just look a whole lot more realistic, which makes it even more terrifying. A big example of this is John Carpenter's The Thing, which I think has one of the best practical effects in history for a horror movie, and they are so effective. But then when the 2011 The Thing came out, it opted for a more CGI path doing the effects, and that movie is hardly ever talked about because people just don't remember it, it's forgotten, and just people prefer to watch John Carpenter's The Thing. And I think a big part of that has to do with the practical effects and all of the makeup that went into it. And there's so many memorable scenes in The Thing thanks to the practical effects. Like when the dude is laying on the table and his chest just rips open and bites the dude's arm off. That is such a memorable scene that sticks with you throughout the entire movie and even past the movie. And all of that happens in Terrifier 2. And another example is Sam Raimi's Evil Dead franchise, specifically Evil Dead 2, which the first time I remember seeing that movie, I remember just all the amazing, I was blown away by the practical effects that were done in that movie. Like at the end when the giant tree thing is busting into the house, all of the little like the Deadites makeup, it's just so memorable. That's the big thing that I think practical effects is memorability. You're gonna remember these effects once the movie ends. Unlike if something was done with CGI, you'll be like, okay, that's CGI. But when something is done with practical effects, it makes it more realistic, and you're like, oh wow, that's actually real. That's actually happening on set, and it just adds another layer of immersiveness to it. And I really love that about horror movies. And there are some other movies, examples that came out recently, like Halloween Ends. If you know me, you know I don't like the movie. I was very disappointed with Halloween Ends. And another thing was that I didn't find the kills all that memorable. And not all that has to do with the practical effects. I get that some of the kills done were pretty practical, but there's also, you can see a lot of CGI blood in the mix, especially in Halloween Kills, which I think is a significantly better movie than Halloween Ends. But there are still some CGI moments that you can see. Even though if there are practical effects thrown in, there is still a mix of practical and CGI. But I do think Halloween Kills handles it pretty well. There are some moments where it looks very CGI-ish, but especially the stunt work done in that fireman sequence where Michael Myers is just beating up a bunch of firemen. The stunt work for that is really well done. And there are some practical effects done in Halloween Kills which are really effective and stick with you. But I think a big problem with that movie is that there was so much happening and there were so many kills that it's hard to remember a certain kill. There were definitely some memorable kills in Halloween Kills, but I'm not sure if they were as memorable as some that were in Terrifier 2. All of the kills in Terrifier 2 felt like they had so much care put into each individual kill, and that's why it was so memorable and it was so disgusting, because they wanted to find the best way to gross you out, to give the best send-off to this character. And I think Terrifier 2 is excellent when it comes to that. And it's just something that I'd like to see more of in horror movies, especially more practical effects, because nowadays we just see a bunch of CGI demons, CGI ghosts or whatever. For example, Smile that recently come out, and I'm a big fan of Smile. I think Smile is a really good movie, but that is a pretty big CGI, not really big CGI movie, but there are some definitely CGI creatures when it comes to the end, when we finally see the Smile demon or whatever it is, when I think it's a really fantastic creature design, but it would have been so amazing to see that done practically, even though I know it's really hard to do that practically, but I just think CGI, when it's done well, it can be really effective. But when it's not done well, it's really noticeable, and it can really it can really hurt the movie. And I really hope that in the future we see more practical effects, because I'm a huge fan of practical effects. As you can tell from this video, I love them. But I just think they elevate the movie so much more. And this was a fantastic year for horror movies. And we've had a few dud horror movies, but there were so many good horror movies this year. Right now I want to talk about Hellraiser, the new Hellraiser movie that come out. I saw a behind the scenes thing about the makeup that went into making the Hellraiser characters. I'm sorry, I'm not a big Hellraiser fan, or I don't know a lot about the Hellraiser lore, so I forgot what they're called. But the Hellraiser demon things, the makeup is done really well, and it adds so much more to the movie as if it was done with CGI. And that's something I really appreciate about Hellraiser. Even if I didn't care for Hellraiser that much, I still found the practical effects to be amazing. And so that's just really what I stand on about practical effects. And like I said several times, I just want to see more practical effects in the future. I think they can be really well done, and it really makes you feel more into the movie, and it really leaves a lasting impression in your head. So let me know what your thoughts are about practical effects and Terrifier 2. Did you love Terrifier 2? Did you think the practical effects were maybe too much, maybe too gory for you? And as always, guys, have a great day. And like I said earlier, I'm gonna probably do more of these videos where I just talk about a certain subject that I'm really interested in, and maybe I might want to talk about a single movie that maybe came out a while ago, and maybe it's not going to be like a new release. It's just a break from new releases, so I could talk about something that's came out before, and so just so I could share my thoughts on it. So like always, guys, have a great day, and see you later.